Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brighton Area Schools Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's have my roll call, please.
Mr. Conley?
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Trombley?
Here.
Dr. Krebs?
Here.
Mr. Stahl?
Here.
Mr. Myers?
Here. All right, that takes us to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Stahl, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion?
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda under for action, item C, Neola policies. I would like to motion to move that to for future action.
All right, so we have a motion.
I too have a motion to, on the minutes of last time, it shows you absent. I'd like to strike that out of there. I'm pretty sure you hear my left ear pretty much remembers you being here.
Well, so that'll still stay on the agenda, Ken, in terms of the actual agenda that we have. So we can deal with that once we get to that action item on the for action. So we have a motion by Ms. Mitchell, supported by Mr. Conley, for the amendment to move the item C in for action, Neola policies, to what will be now item A for future action. Any further discussion?
Is this with the intention then to move it to for action for the next meeting?
Yes.
Yes, I think pieces that we're missing are two people that were the lead on those policy discussions.
being moved?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, there's nothing that needs to be done tonight on those policies. So
Okay. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 6-0. All right. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent report. Dr. Outlaw.
sure, I'll be short and quick on this. We've had a great start to the year. It's been fantastic. Our students and staff are back at it, and we had a great first week. And I just wanted to thank all of our staff members, our parents, everybody for really making it a great start to the year. Did want to mention two additional things real quickly. First one, I just wanted to highlight, Mr. Scaling is not here this evening, but as our human resource director, we have some vacancies that we are working on as a school district. Just like everybody around the state, around the country, there are vacancies, particularly in our support area, custodial, our food service, and then also our parapro support. So if anybody knows anybody that's interested in those type of positions, they're extremely important to our team, and we have some vacancies. So
I was told while working with the schools before school started that we were losing employees to our local districts because of the wages that we pay. So maybe we should look at that and see where we're going to need to go. If it's going to be at $12 an hour, maybe we have to go to 14 or whatever it is, but it appears that that's the case. And apparently good people are losing for a few dollars an hour, and we can't really replace them. So just FYI.
Yep, it's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a conversation for the board that the administration would like to bring for some conversation. We'd like to do a little bit more market research, and we'd like to analyze the end of the unemployment benefits. Some of that came to an end last week, what that ripple effect will be. But we would love to engage the board in that kind of discussion about what we can do to be more competitive in bringing some of those folks to fill those spots.
I think the schools were great. What I saw, I was pretty proud of what we had going. So
When will that discussion take place?
Soon. We need to do some research for it, but I probably, my next thing I want to talk about is the board meeting schedule. We had talked about doing a retreat quarterly, and in October or November, I think it might be a good time for us to do a retreat, and I think that would be a great topic for the board to have.
But that's my point. If we're going to have it October, November, that's half the year basically. And then you're going to have to go through the approval process, and then you're going to have to go through the hiring process. You're not going to have anybody on until springtime if we need people.
We need to come to you with a proposal that's been well researched, and so Obviously, it's something that we're going to work on and we're going to bring to you as soon as possible.
Well, so Dr. Arlo, we have the workshop scheduled for September 29th, which is going to include the training with Rod Green. Now, I don't believe that training is going to necessitate the use of all of the time that we have for that night. So I certainly would be open. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts
I'll
were.
come for that first meeting. Yeah, as soon as the training starts, I'll come to that first
Well,
meeting.
I mean, depending on the timing of the training, I mean, whether we do it before or after, my point is that there should be some time to discuss. I mean, this is obviously, I agree with, is a time sensitive issue. And I don't have a problem, having further discussion. If the administration is going to be in a position to be able to come to us with some ideas and some alternatives, I mean, it's.
So, yes, but there's other topics in addition to that we'd like to engage the board in some back and forth discussion on. So let me put together a list but we understand that it's a pressing matter as it is
We've
for.
done there before when it got the other side, and trust me, there's nobody on this board who wants to see us get to where the schools aren't kept clean and all the details, those custodians do. It's important.
So that other piece that I was mentioning is that for the month of October and November, I know I've shared this with board members because of the volume of trainings and things like that and the action items that are there, I'd like to propose that we have one meeting each one of those months, formal meeting, and then we'll have a number of workshops and other things that we're going to have during that time. But we have board action items that necessitates one meeting in each one of those months. So I would like to propose that in both October and November that we would meet one time. And that would be the second meeting of that month.
That's what I wanted to confirm. So you're thinking of changing the first meeting of each month to more of a workshop?
For October and November. December already has one board meeting. That's what's scheduled just because of the holidays. So to do that, and then perhaps we could have that workshop on that first one of October. That was kind of what was in the back of my head, but I wanted to make sure that was, just because it's already on your schedule, shifting that one to being a workshop instead of a formal meeting where we have a little bit more back and forth dialogue.
And then just in the name of transparency, these are of course open meetings because it's
Oh,
a
sure.
public board.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll post it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if it works for the board, I'd love to have the 12th. I'd love to pencil that in for that workshop if it works for the board. I think it was the 12th?
The 11th.
The 11th, I apologize. The
Monday the
11th, the
11th.
Monday the 11th.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I know, that's why Star's here to keep us honest. So yeah, that Monday meeting, that first Monday,
Would be a
would love for
workshop.
that to be a workshop where we could do the stuff that we're talking about right now. But, okay. All right. So that was it. And just think we're off to a great start. We just want to keep the ball rolling. So
On that note, too, we could do some exit interviews on the people that left before that and find out exactly what the circle was, and we can talk about that on the exit, why the exit, what the exit interview shows.
Okay.
And because I'd be willing to, before they're leaving, if they're on their way and they're gonna turn a notice, we can make a counter offer before they get out of here, especially people that have been doing a good job for us in the district. If we're gonna raise the rate, why not give it to the people that have been working hard for us, not just the new ones coming in?
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Outlaw. Okay, that moves us to the call to the public item on our agenda. If you have not already done so, there are index cards at the back table. The way we handle the call to the public is that you need to fill out an index card with your name and address. There is an opportunity to check a box if you wish to add any comments, and then deposit the card at in the box there next to the podium. And then I will call everyone up individually to address the board if they would like to do so. If you do want to address the board, your comments must be limited to 3 minutes. Dr. Krebs will be keeping track of time. She will give you a yellow warning that you have 30 seconds left, and then she will give you a red card indicating that your 3 minutes is up and you need to conclude your comments. Okay? So.
Roger, good question.
Sure.
Under this business about people having to give their names and their personal information, and put their character out there when these convey controversial issues sometimes. And sometimes there's a social media effect upon the students and their parents because they don't always go with what the other ones are doing. I would suggest that we go to call the public, they just give us their first name. That's all they need to say. They don't need to, there's no law. There's no criteria that states they have to give us their name, their address, their home, where people can drive by their house and sit in their front yard, their driveway and everything else. So it's just a thought. I asked someone of person of importance here in the county, I asked them specifically, what's the rules on this? There's no law that says they have to give their name and address. It's a policy we've taken, but here's what my belief is. It's a policy of potential oppression, where we're gonna put a person on the spot, where if they didn't have to do that, they might come forward to us and not, and say something. Really, they may say, well, I'm gonna be smart about this, I'm not gonna do that, because I want people to know who I am. So just an idea. In this world of being recorded, this world of video, this world of all that, I want every parent who wants to speak free to speak on whatever side of the issue it is. That's my position.
So one thing I will add, and this was an item that came up in the context of what gave rise, as I understand it, to the use of the cards, is that if someone only wants to address the public by their name, they still have to fill out a card so that we have a record of who spoke.
Why do we have to have a record?
That's been our policy, and we've enforced that consistently.
Well, in this day and age, things are changing.
Well,
Social media is changing. The business of how they treat the students is changing. The business of how they treat their parents is changing. And this environment, we have to protect our parents and our students. Mostly the students first. Parents are old enough they can protect themselves. But the issue is, why would we ever put somebody in that position? We're here to get the input from the public to best do our jobs to help us move forward, not to stop them from coming forward. So that's just a thought I have tonight. We can do the same thing we've been doing, and that's fine. Anybody that doesn't want to have all their information on the card, tell Roger, or don't want it all brought to public. But that's just my feeling. And I see what you're thinking, and we're heading the right direction by saying we won't advertise that, but we'll have it in our file in case we needed to contact them. And that's another thing that could be said. If you want us to get back to you in some method, then give us all your information and the way we can get a hold of you. Just a thought. All right. Thank you. Sure.
okay, the first one is Carrie Popoff.
Hi, I'm Carrie Popoff. I live in Brighton and I have 2 kids at Brighton High School. First, I'd like to say thank you so very much for leaving the masking decision in the hands of students and their parents. My 2 teenagers are extremely grateful. But tonight, I'm not here to talk about masks. I'm here to talk about something else, something that has the potential to keep more kids in school safely. I want to talk about antibodies. I've shared a link to a CDC page with all of you on the board. The link leads to a page called Interim Guidelines for Antibody Testing. I even wrote to the CDC directly, and they confirmed that this is the most up-to-date guidance there is. It states, unvaccinated persons who have tested antibody positive within 3 months before or immediately following an exposure to someone with suspected or confirmed COVID-19 and who have remained asymptomatic since the current COVID-19 exposure do not need to quarantine, provided there is limited or no contact with persons at high risk for severe COVID-19 illness. This means if you have a positive antibody test, you are exempt from quarantine for 3 months. My question is, why aren't we following this advice? It surely could keep a lot of kids out of quarantine and in school. I have reached out to you and to LCHD numerous times and have yet to get a real answer. Basically, unfortunately, everyone just passes the buck and says there's nothing they can do. In my own case, my freshman football player was quarantined before school even started. It is his 4th quarantine without being sick. I immediately had him tested for antibodies, which he was positive for, very positive for. In fact, I was surprised. The athletic director would not let my perfectly healthy immune son come to practice. He ended up not being able to play the first game of the season, and he was pretty devastated. So now I'm asking again, please be the leaders we need you to be and that you have been this far. Please press Livingston County Health Department to follow this CDC guidance and keep our healthy, immune kids in school. Thank you.
Jennifer Smith?
Hi there. I just want to say that I echo everything you said about the contact cards. I understand for security reasons, but I am one of the parents that was completely doxxed for that, stating my address. And it wasn't anything dangerous, but it sure was a really large bag of dog poop on my car. So it wasn't a pleasant surprise. So anyway, with that being said, I just want to echo what Carrie said, and thank you all for being leaders in our county and leaving freedom of choice up to us. As you know, I am not new to the board meetings, and I shared with you last time my kids have been out of school for 543 days. It has been a really cool week for them, and to watch the spirit of education come back alive. If you've ever had the opportunity to homeschool your kids, you will definitely see the mental health and the just that, like I said, the spirit of education come alive within them. They get really excited when they're self-led on something that they're guided to. But to see these two 9 and 12-year-old return to their environment with their friends in a friendly atmosphere. They were very welcome back very warmly. And my husband and I could not be happier. So thank you for giving them that opportunity. And I hope that you will continue to remind yourselves of the many kids like them who would be affected if we changed. I just have one thing as a parent of a high schooler. My son is a very strong male, and I don't really appreciate the teachers asking them what their pronouns are. I think that if a student has an issue with their identity, that needs to be directed between the parent and the student and then reported back to counseling or a teacher. So I am somewhat offended by that. We don't begin the school year asking for pronouns. We certainly don't begin the school year asking them what their religious affiliation is. And I kind of feel like the two of them are one and the same. So I think that the use of that is wrong, and I would appreciate if you would investigate and as such handle that. The last thing I want to say is I would like to thank Dr. Outlaw for instituting the Patriot Day on Friday. I know that it interfered with the big football game, so we were split with dog jerseys, but the red, white, and blue. Nicole and I were at the Horning PTO meeting, and it sure was really cool to see all of the kids on the playground in the red, white, and blue. And I would just maybe like to drop you an idea of encouraging you to assign a day like that for each week for the kids to participate in being a patriot. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Brigette.
Hello, Brighton area school board members. Thank you for letting me speak here tonight. Just to let you know, Kerry Millis, who invented the PCR test, he called Dr. Fauci a pathological liar because his machine was never meant to detect the COVID-19. There is nothing out there that can detect COVID-19, okay? They cannot isolate it, cannot detect it, and that's why Dr. Fauci is switching the test in December. Dr. Solinko, who is one of Trump's doctors on his board, he treated 7,000 patients, 7,000 patients he treated, only 3 of them died, but he treated them with hydrochloroquine, just to let you know. Dr. Fauci and the CDC and the FDA have lied to the American people once again. The PCR test cannot pick up the COVID-19, nor can it detect the COVID-19 virus. Can the CDC show us the studies or facts, test, proof, the results of the mask or the COVID jab work? Nope, they sure can't. Also, ask yourselves this. If Dr. Fauci and the FDA admitted a few weeks ago that the PCR tests do not work, how are they confirming these new variants? Where are the new tests that they're using to detect these new variants? Dr. Fauci came out saying that kids vaccinated or not vaccinated need to wear a mask. here is something I can really agree with the CDC said. The CDC did a study and also came out with a study about your school mask mandates, ignored by the fake news that won't report it, found no evidence that school mask mandates have been effective. The study, which analyzed 90,000 elementary students in Georgia, 169 schools, from November 16th to December 11th, found all statistics with no significant differences of viruses spread that required a mask compared to other schools that were optional in wearing a mask. The CDC study shows that children generally do not spread the COVID-19 virus. Children have a little risk of getting or contracting the COVID virus. The children have more of a chance contracting the seasonal flu, which is more deadlier to our children than COVID. So why isn't this information out there in the public? Thank you very much.
Thank you. David Deal.
Hi, I'm Dave Deal. My wife and I live with our 2 children in Brighton. I want to thank the board tonight for what you do, for giving us the opportunity to make our statements. Thank you very much. I also want to extend a special thank you to Mr. Trombley, Mr. Connolly, Mr. Myers, Dr. Outlaw, and especially to Principal Johnson and the BHS football and rugby coaching staffs, Officer Bell. All of you guys appear to be very strong forces in our school. Thank you very much. I'm truly grateful for you and for the many teachers who espouse the not too old-fashioned principles of personal accountability and recognizing that history is what it is and learning from it. The good, the bad, the truth, the things that made America great. Just know that there are many, many parents that are standing beside you in this battle. So thank you very much. I have 2 issues I want to talk about very briefly. The first one is the mask and vaccine mandates. I commend you, the whole board, for the stance that you have taken against such obvious tyranny. Thank you very much. Please do not be persuaded to change. We are dealing with a virus not too unlike the flu, as you've just heard, with a 99.997% survivability rate by our children, and that's by the CDC's own numbers and with late treatment. Okay, I myself, an older man, has a 99.5% survivability by the CDC numbers. So please stay strong in your decision to resist this tyranny. Thank you very much. The second issue is the race-based initiatives. These leftist doctrines are not about race at all. If you dig into them at any length, you'll realize it's not about race. They are about dividing the American people. Case in point, just last week, a liberal white woman wearing a gorilla mask assaulted a black conservative gubernatorial candidate. If you don't believe that, go look it up somewhere. It's actually in California, just as a hint. In the demented mind of a leftist, it's not really about the color of skin. It's about crushing the conservative views. It has nothing to do with race. Folks, this is about good versus evil. If it would have been the other way around, a conservative offender attacking a liberal victim, our media would have been apoplectic. My point here is that, yes, we need to love people of all colors, but that was taught to us by the greatest man ever to walk the face of the earth 2,000 years ago, and still lives today. But also, the CRT, DEI, IBT, woke white privilege nonsense is just a tool used by the left to silence the conservatives. We cannot allow this to continue. We must eliminate all such race-based initiatives completely and follow the teaching of the one who had the answer so long ago. Yes, it is that simple. Thank you.
Nicole Collars.
Good evening. There were envelopes handed to every one of you by Dr. Outlaw. I am here on behalf of Moms for Liberty of Livingston County, and we wanted to extend a huge thank you to each and every one of you. I want to read the letter quickly. We, the following Brighton Bulldog family and friends, would like to thank you for standing up for and remaining true to freedom of choice regarding masking in schools. We appreciate the fact that Livingston County has remained an island among mask-mandated counties. We recognize that this decision was not made in haste and understand the risk you personally took for our students to reap the reward of educational opportunity for all. We remain steadfast in our beliefs that the choice should remain the parents, as we know what type of environment is most successful for our children. Thank you for listening to all of our concerns and thoughtfully considering them when making your decision. You've laid the foundation for success for every child this year by allowing choice. We have 148 families who have signed this letter with us, and you have the list. But on a personal note, I would like to say thank you from my family. I have a high anxiety child, and he is smiling every day when he walks out of school. We were homeschooled last year, and coming back to school, my kids are loving it. They wouldn't have had this opportunity if masks were enforced. My 5-year-old, I swear she talks about kindergarten every day for an hour. And sometimes if she gets stuck in the yellow quadrant, oh boy, she might have a playground revolution over the yellow quadrant. But anyways, thank you so much. We really, truly appreciate you standing up for our kids.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anna Pinella. I am from Brighton. I just also wanted to say thank you for the excellent decision that we've made to allow these kids to attend in person and unmasked. It was so exciting to be at the football game on Friday night. I feel like maybe the entire district was there. It was awesome. The kids had such a great time. I had a great time. Obviously, it helps to have fantastic weather, but and to beat Heartland. But it was excellent. One of the things that I would like to talk about tonight is my concern about quarantines. I was told that throughout the district, last year we had 305 positive COVID cases. One thing that I thought of when I found that out was, I don't know if those are verified by the actual health department. Can you just call in and say, I think my kid is positive, and then they quarantine other kids? I don't know that official procedure. But out of the 305 positive cases, do you realize we had 8,000 to 9,000 quarantines? That's like mind-blowing. To deny the kids an education for those 8,000 to 9,000 kids who I think 99% of the time were never sick. I hope we can come up with a better option to try to keep these kids in school and allow them to continue. I know that there is an opt-out option, and I think that is a step in the right direction. I wish that would, although I do not like the testing and the overreach of the health department in that regard, but I wish it would include also the extracurricular activities. The idea, like the woman said about her son missing the football game, those are giant events in these kids' lives. I know that we as adults understand that there's bigger life out there, but in their teenage world, it's hard to imagine anything that's more important than their event that day. So I just hope we can figure out a way to allow parents to decide, okay, like back in 3 years ago, if my kid had strep throat, I kept them home. If my kid has COVID, I would keep them home. I don't look forward to getting anyone sick. I know that many parents have experienced this, just being in a group. You could be at a relative's house and they're like, oh, shoot, Tommy had the flu. And everyone goes, oh, great. What are we in for this week? But as parents, let's just implement some common sense and recognize that we should be able to decide whether or not our children are sick. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Joel Nagel?
Hi, my name is Joel Nagel. I'm new to this. This is my first board meeting, and I have 2 kids at Hilton Elementary Thank you, Mr. Myers, for being the liaison there. So I may say some things, I might be ignorant to the process of how the school system works in some areas. So I apologize for that up front. But I have something that I wanted to echo actually off of Mr. Giel, was it? Right? The kind of the same topic. In my second graders class, the curriculum was sent out for readers and writers workshop. And again, this is my first time. If anyone else has brought this up, I'm sorry that I'm bringing it up again. But it's a long, it's a curriculum that's been used for a long time. My wife used to be a kindergarten teacher. She said it's a great curriculum. It's called Lucy Calkins, and I believe it's through Teachers College. And she said it's a great curriculum. However, since she used to use it when she was in the classroom, it has changed. And right on their main webpage, it has their mission statement. And I'd like to read their mission statement very quickly. Our goal is to support young people, teachers, and families in order to develop future generations of expert, passionate, and critical thinkers. Young people who use literacy to speak out and to live as engaged, curious, justice-seeking citizens in the world. We aim to create and support teaching that is anti-racist and anti-oppressive, teaching that fosters democratic engagement, empathy, and inclusivity. And it goes on beyond that. I don't want to read the whole thing. It's about 4 paragraphs long. And many of you may know that a couple of those terms in there, it comes straight from the concepts of intersectionality and critical race theory. You can find this in Kimberly Crenshaw's book and Ibram X. Kendi's book, the ideas of oppression, of anti-oppression and oppression, and the idea of racism and anti-racism, which is a very new term. So it is very specific to this critical race theory. And of course, their proposed opinion, I will say it is an opinion. There's nothing very scholarly about it, but their opinion is that certain people are oppressed based on their skin color, and certain people are oppressors based on their skin color. And I'm finding this in my second graders curriculum. So I don't know if this is actually taught in the classroom itself. Okay, yeah, I'll wrap up. I would just like to make everyone aware of this curriculum, this Lucy Calkins, and maybe we could try and get rid of this curriculum from school. All right, thank you.
Jason Barrett.
Hey, good evening. My name is Jason Barrett, resident of Brighton. First, I'd like to thank all the parents for coming here, very well informed, and I appreciate everything that everyone said so far. On a lighter note, maybe, I want to talk about the parking lot issues, especially at Maltby School. And I would like to know if this board actually has a plan to do something about that parking lot. If anyone does, please raise your hand and let me know. Because we're talking about not one school, but 2 schools that begin class within about 15 minutes of each other and end their day within about 15 minutes of each other. So the entire Maltby school, right? Every elementary kid, 4 elementary school kids worth that go to this school, plus Horning, share a parking lot. And believe me when I say it's at least 20 minutes of sitting on either Brighton Road or Bauer Road to get into that parking lot before school or after school. Some may say, why don't you try busing your kids to school? Well, if anybody has kids in school that took the bus this past week, my daughter on Friday, the bus was 50 minutes late to pick her up in the morning. 50 minutes late. Getting home, everybody got the emails about how late the buses were going to be. So it's not a resolution. Something needs to be done to that parking lot. I know there's a lot of money in the Brighton area schools, right? We're talking about putting in a dome at Maltby School for sporting events in the next upcoming few years, correct? Why don't we take some of those funds or move some funds from somewhere else? Something needs to be done at that school. Parking lot, transportation is an issue. Thank you.
Roger. Roger. Can I address that? One comment that I will share with the board. The rest comment you want that just share with the board, right? Okay. So this will be coming to you. We have one more comment that we'll give to everybody on the board.
Thank you, Dr. Alla. And is there anyone else that would like to address the board or the call to the public that has not filled out a card?
I would like to just say one thing.
Maybe. Go ahead.
I have a loud voice. I just want to echo everybody and say thank you for being leaders, not only in Brighton and Livingston County, and we're going to show these other schools what true leadership is.
And what is your name?
Oh, my name is Eva Helmanen. I live on 630 Brighton Lake Road. I've been here a few times already, but the face and yeah, whatever. But anyway, thanks. We really appreciate it. The last Helmanen is in high school at Brighton, and he's thrilled. He's thrilled to be playing hockey and thrilled to be living normally. He just made one observation the other day, though. When he went to school, he said, the teacher comes in, she has a mask on, then she gets hot and sweaty and takes it off. He goes, Mom, what's the point? I said, I agree. Thank you.
All right, that will close the call to the public portion of our agenda and moves us into 4 action. Item A, regular meeting minutes of August 23, 2021. Do we have a motion? Moved by Dr. Pratt, supported by Ms. Mitchell. Any discussion?
The section 3 roll call, strike through the one absent, Mr. Myers, as he was indeed here using the gavel.
Star? Okay. All right, with that modification, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 6-0. Next item, B, Human Resource Report. Dr. Outlaw, are you going to stand in this one?
Oh, happy to. 2 items here. We had one resignation accepted. Individual took a job at another district. And we are pleased to announce the hiring of the Director of Pupil Accounting, a position we've been seeking, trying to get somebody with really good credentials. That is an essential position for the district. And we have hired Annie Kruger from Wayne Risa, very experienced, be able to hit the ground running. And I think the team's very excited to have her on board. So that's it.
Okay. We have a motion. Someone support? Moved by Mr. Stahl, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 6-0. Next item, D, renewal of contracts. Dr. Outlaw?
Yes, we discussed this at the last meeting here. This is the pay increases that went for all the groups that had collective bargaining agreements, the teachers and our support staff, as well as our administrators. This renews those contracts for the non-affiliated staff members. And it issues the 1.5 pay increase that went to others. The board received a list of that included employees at the bridge, our central office support staff, community ed, tot spot, and a few others in independent positions that are not in bargaining agreement. So that's what we have.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion? With Dr. Krebs, support by Mr. Stahl. Any discussion?
I'd like to abstain from this vote.
Abstain.
No. I do have a comment.
Sure.
And I certainly, appreciate the fact of us voting on this, but, and giving the people the well-deserved money, but I'm hoping that some of these administrators that are getting this raise will step up and start earning the dollars that they're being paid and start doing the job that they're supposed to do in the first place, instead of just kind of going along with the mainstream of things to get by, to collect a paycheck and get their time in for retirement. So, thank you.
Well, just as a point of clarification, I don't believe the administrators are getting a raise in this resolution, correct?
Yeah, the administrators already received the raise that was part of the
I'm sorry.
collective bargaining.
Right, okay, that was the
agreement.
last one.
Yeah.
But they're.
These are non-union.
Though, it's saying the administrators.
Yes, the administrators have individual contracts that are being approved here as well. So an extension of their contracts.
That's what I thought.
This is a 1.5% pay increase. Again, I'm not arguing.
Correct, yeah, that-
Pay increase. I just want to make it clear that's what we're agreeing. Is that what you're asking for, Mr. Trombley?
That's what it is, isn't it?
No. Well, my understanding is we're approving the administrator's contract extension without an increase in salary. The only increase that's part of what's it's being proposed and voted on relates to the non-affiliated employees. Did I
Correct.
say that correctly?
Correct. So I'm going to go
Okay.
right to the packet. The bargaining unit members, actually, the contracts for BASA administrators, back administrative assistants, assistant superintendents, and executive director of human resources are presented for renewal of their 2-year cycle with a termination date of June 30th, 2023. That's part one of it. Part two, bargaining unit members these folks have already received their 1.5. We are approving the same increase for all non-affiliated employees, would be consistent with past
So
district.
that 1.5 isn't going to administrators, we're
Correct.
only approving their contract.
Correct.
This resolution is only for people that are non-affiliated.
And we voted on that one back in February
Correct.
That's right.
for
Yeah,
the
okay.
2021 year. Now, this is for the 21-22 school year,
That's right.
right?
Correct. Yes. The one thing I would say is, I've been with the district for just about a year now, and I really have been pleased with the principals, our central administration. They are working so hard, especially through this pandemic, and it's an honor to work with them. So just wanted to say that.
Mr. Conley?
So on this, we're given these, we agreed to these, and I'm supporting that as well tonight. But we didn't look at these folks that are heading out the door. Somehow we missed them in the transaction here as we were looking at everybody else's groups. So as we look at this as a board, well, it works from the technicians, again, and the custodians to keeping the school up and running at 1,300,000 square feet, give or take. Is that correct? Do we know the square footage? 1,300,000. So in order to maintain this operation, to have this environment to work in, we have to take care of the baseline as well. And to have people leaving for $1 an hour, I just don't want that to happen anymore. We have good people, and we've earned our trust by being there and doing good work. So we just got to get on this, and I'm good with these folks getting a raise today because it balances out what other folks were given, and we can afford to do it today. Doesn't mean we can afford to do it next year. We'll adjust it again next year if we can or can't. So, but for today, it's fine. But I really want to get on to our core staff too. That's the next notch for the school district. Thank you.
Thank you.
But my understanding now is that we're just being fair, that we're making sure everybody is getting the same raise. With this,
But again, 2% or 1.5% of somebody's pay that's down here versus 2% of somebody's pay up here.
I get percentages.
I know
understand
that. Well, then
percentages.
it's not the same,
I understand
but it's
that.
not anywhere near the same.
I understand that.
It's not anywhere near the same. I'll leave it at that.
So I think that's a great conversation. I think that what
But
you
it's
brought
not
up.
fair. It's not fair to even think it's the same. I'll leave it at that too. So I just continue.
Well, I think the purpose for which from my perspective, for these 1%, 1.5% increase in terms of across the board, that's a completely different issue than the issue you're talking about, Mr. Conley. And that is, are we, and given the marketplace, are we being competitive and are we being
Apparently not.
fair in compensating custodians and the other,
Whatever staff.
the other
But still,
staff.
1.5% though, at the different wage group, if the wage is only 30,000 a year or 40, that one, it doesn't, it's not even close to the same kind of number getting to the home checkbook. So in our case, like regarding the janitorial staff, and maybe it's even in the service and maintenance side of our school district, knowing what the wages are out there, prevailing wages, what's going on for what everybody's being paid, that's important for us to know. And they shouldn't be leaving 1, 2, and 3 at a time. I can see one changing because they can get the next better job, because that's the whole goal. You know, if you continue to improve yourself, we're there to help too. If we have an open spot, the next step up, we'd like to give it to the person, right? I mean, you want to keep your people if there's a place for them to go. That's all I'm saying. And like I said, I was in the middle of it, and I got to work with some of the folks. They really worked hard for us. It wasn't because they wanted a different job or wanted a raise. They were just doing their jobs that they do every single day, many times without appreciation. The only time anybody ever goes to them is when there's a complaint. I see a person in public service in the back that works hard, same thing. Does their job every single day. By the time, wait a minute, somebody complained about something, wait a minute, I just did hundreds and hundreds of things and it went wonderfully. So that's all I'm saying. We need that core group to be successful in our school. We do.
We'll do some good research on that, and
let's make it so.
ready
Let's
with
make
some
it happen.
market analysis on that.
We will take care of it.
Custodial, food service, as well as our parapros. Those are 3 spots where I think we need to discuss.
Let's do it.
And we need feedback from the board.
But again, this is just to equalize, bring everybody
Correct.
equal to start.
Right, and that's
The next
that's
step
my
moving
point, is
forward.
that this is not an attempt to create prevailing wage or
No, I know
to
that.
address staffing shortages, but that's a
This is
completely different topic.
overdue.
This is a fairness move.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? And 1 abstention? That passes 5-0-1. All right, item E, MASB's 2020 Delegate Assembly, certify your delegates. Do we have a motion? By Ms. Mitchell, supported by Dr. Krebs, and I guess I should start out by saying, before the motion was who was going to be the delegate, we didn't have anybody I see in our draft. Mr. Stahl, are you still willing to?
Yeah.
All right.
I was made aware of that, so I'm fine with it.
And I know that that was a potential concern last time. I'm happy to be the delegate if that's still going to be an issue. And if it isn't, then I'm happy to be the alternate, if it's an issue with anyone.
If you want.
We can talk about it. I
That'll
mean,
be fine.
for now, we'll keep it as it's drafted, the motion for you to be the delegate, I'll be the alternate, and then we can figure out who's going to end up being the attendant on behalf of the district.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 6-0. Next item is the item F, BAS pack of dogs donation. Mr. Engelter, is that you?
Just wanted to get the board to accept the donation from the Story family at $1,235. They do enough for the program, so I'm not sure why they're also donating, but, we can't thank them enough for what they do for this Pack of Dogs program. So asking the board to accept that tonight so we can get it done and over with. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion.
Support.
Moved by Ms. Mitchell, support by Mr. Trombley. Any discussion?
Yeah. This is Karen, right? This is her family. Oh, my goodness.
Scott.
Yeah, my goodness. What a wonderful job she's done from the beginning of this program to where we're at today. And for her to donate in her hard-earned dollars that are, again, hard-earned, and put that back into a program that she supported with untold hours without pay. And, and then it's been a wonderful thing for the school district, and others have watched the growth, and those animals have done a great job. And I think about last year and the tough times the students were in, and different times, and maybe even our teachers too, what those dogs offered. I can't say enough of her work and her kind of looking in the future. Back when she originally started this, she said, this is something that'll work, and it's worked. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, what Ms. Story has done individually and her
Oh, it's
family
amazing. Yeah.
in support of that program is phenomenal, and we certainly owe her and her family a tremendous debt of gratitude for all that they've done and for this obviously very generous contribution.
Roger. In saying that, I brought this up more than once. It's been out here for at least a year and a half, if not 2 years. What are we doing as a board for sustainability for funding for the pack of dogs?
So we received we had a quote that was done by Pepsi. And we're getting a competitive quote from Coca-Cola that we'd be able to bring to the board. So,
But you know what, I understand things take time, but gee whiz, this has been almost 2 years now. How much longer are we going to keep kicking the can down the road before we decide to do something about this? I mean, it's not like I haven't been bringing it up here. I mean, like I said, for the last 2 years, I brought it up and so far nothing's been done. And it's getting to the time where if the person that spearheads this thing decides that she's done or something, what's going to happen? I don't know. Who's going to fund the pack of dogs? Who's going to go out and solicit money? Who's going to do this kind of stuff if we want to keep this in Brighton area schools, which I think we should? How much longer are we going to keep kicking stuff down the road until we finally have to put a fire out and do something quickly without, thinking about it because it's a snap decision? But does it take 2 years to make a decision?
I've been asking again in finance if we can set up the accounts and get them set so people know what they're donating to. And again, these donations that come in, I really truly believe the community will fill the bucket once they know that they can send, $10 a month or however we decide to do it and take care of these dogs that will then take care of our students. So we need to definitely try and see how it works and put some infrastructure in that for the longevity and the hope, because we don't want it to disappear. I don't think anybody on the board wants it to disappear. I don't think anybody up here, whether it's finance or not, wants it to disappear, but there is a certain way it has to be funded. And obviously we don't have the ability to fund that through the board, through our general fund, correct?
That's correct.
Partially done with the money that comes in from the community, majority of it, kind of. Okay, maybe it can go in our workshop, add it to one of the workshops, because that's something I think we should know and how it can be done. And whatever those methods are, we can learn and understand them. That's great.
Well, but my point is, it's still not moving the process along.
It can. I think we're all.
Well, we've been doing it for 2 years now.
Well,
I guess if we wait another 3 months or 4 months, what's that bother,
May
right?
not be a month, maybe a few weeks.
Well, that would be great if that were the case.
We'll put it on the list.
we need to have a quote from that second bidder. I know that conversation took place.
When did you get the quote from Pepsi?
When did I get it? I'm not the one doing this directly, but
Well-
I have a packet of things from.
When did that come in? Let me ask
Probably
you.
in the spring. late
Okay,
spring.
so we've had since the spring until now to get a quote from the other company. And I'm assuming the other company's Coca-Cola if you're talking about Pepsi.
Correct.
How long does it take to get a quote from Coke?
So I'll check on that. I'll bring that information back.
Okay.
And that reminds me of one other thing. Sorry. At one time, we were funding programs in the middle school in 2000. I was on the parent advisory council at Scranton. And we were funding some programs that were going on. They said they couldn't fund them unless we sold caffeinated beverages to sixth graders at the time. I'm like, really? We're going to use a pop machine to fund programs within the community or public school system? And we're going to have caffeinated beverages, and we're going to have all that sugar and high fructose corn syrup and all these things as parents that sometimes I don't support at all, like zero. A lot of times you got to let them have a little bit, whatever. It's a birthday party, whatever. You got to kind of release that a little bit. But on a daily diet, we're going to feed this to our kids. So be very cautious what we put in these machines if we're using this to fund our dog program. What if these beverages or everything else that's in them, that it's healthy for our kids and not going to caffeine and sugar. Young guys sitting down and ask them to sit down and do their homework. And just to sit down for minutes sometimes is impossible. Add caffeine and sugar to it at 7 a.m. or 8, and it's not going to happen.
Well, we can talk, the motion is to accept the
Oh,
this generous
absolutely. But it
donation.
brought the
from
other
them.
ideas up.
So
because we want-
let's
We
kind of.
want Mrs. Story's program to run on.
I don't want Ms. Story's glory here to get diluted
It's not
on the
diluted, 'cause
debating whether how
she
much
knows why we're
fructose syrup
here.
is being
Yes, that she's not.
ingested by
She
students.
trusts me on this. She knows who's working.
I certainly agree that we can have a conversation about the use of machines to.
Whatever we're gonna do. have
To,
donated
as a
to
fundraiser and what's going to be in those machines. And that's certainly something that we can put on an
Bottled water's just great.
agenda. All right.
Thank you.
Any
guys.
further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 6-0. That closes the for action portion of our agenda this evening and moves us to for future action, which we have now, item A, Neola policies. Obviously, Ms. Reed and Mr. Scaling neither are here this evening. I don't know if there's anything you want to add this evening, Dr. Outlaw, or any of the policy committee members would like to add.
I have a question. Why did we do that? Why did we move it?
Because they weren't here.
Well, hang on, but it was already, all the information was done. Is there something we're gonna change between now and then, or?
So I think there are some questions that the board's likely to have on that. And I think the two best people to answer that is the chair of the policy committee and then our administrator who's in charge of policy. So having neither of them there, we thought maybe there's nothing that needs to be done in the next 2 weeks that couldn't wait for the 27th. So.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion on that topic? Okay, that closes for future action, moves us into board committee reports, Board of Education bulletins.
Sure. I got a couple things. So I wish the gentleman was back here that got up and asked about Malpe. And yes, there is money in the bond to take care of the Malpe parking lot, to the point of redesign, as well as a road that's going to come in from Rickett and come through the back way of Malpe, which will allow either for buses or cars, depending, to enter or exit as a one-way or a two-way. So we'll,
Billy, are you talking about Scranton or Malden?
I'm sorry, Scranton. I'm sorry.
We gotta make them all be.
So, right. So that's what's going to happen at Scranton. Malpe, because of the lot, the way it was reconfigured in the last bond, we had a traffic consultant look at it. That was the best possible scenario for what is there with the amount of square footage and the space that we have and the actual curb cuts that we have in regards to the road commission. So unless there's a parking engineer that understands a better way of doing it than the way it's already been analyzed and it's already been built, it's not going to get any better, and there's nothing more we could do at Malpe unless we, expanded the lot. And where are you going to expand the lot? Into the back of the baseball fields is basically the only other usable space. So there's nothing in the bond to reconfigure Malpe's lot at this time. There is for Scranton, there is for Spencer, work there. There's money for the high school, and there's money for the transport. Hilton, yes, and Hilton. So, but Malpe was looked at in the last bond, and there's really nothing that can be done there. Okay.
Can I say something just for clarification? So when the new structure comes in, the structure in the back, is there additional parking back there that's not tied to Malpe? Is that kind of how the layout is?
No, the way that'll work is the structure is going to run parallel with Brighton Lake Road. Okay, so it'll run parallel. There'll be a lot in front of it for a pull around and drop off, as well as handicap parking and some parking in that lot, which will sit just about at the corner of Malpe, and
So where that little lot is kind of on the other side?
that's going to be there, and it's going to be expanded. And it'll be a circle around to drop off and pull back out without going into the lot to cause traffic congestion where the cars are parked. And then that'll be the additional parking will be over in the existing lot now. No, it's not going to help. No, that's my point. No. there's nothing more that can be done with Maltby and Horning's parking lot.
So, I mean, so structurally, we're looking at having different times. It would actually, what you would need would be different times for the two schools. Keeping the times further apart between the two schools, have Horning and Maltby starting at their times be.
That could be an option.
That's what I'm trying.
So.
And I know that has been explored in the past, that timing. It's a ripple effect with there's so many pieces to it that was explored even this summer as an option. So I think we'll continue to have dialogue about how we can make the current lot work better. But I know this has been going on.
I can
for
tell
a
you
long
it's been
time.
studied and it's been studied and it's been studied.
Right.
And there, again, unless there's some graduate engineer that has some supersonic, air parking, it's nothing probably is going to happen. But so that's to answer his question with the lots. But then to move forward with some of the bond stuff, you'll see the silt fences up over at Maltby. You'll start seeing stakes. So they're going to start some of the site work for the prep of that building. They've already prepped some of the indoor at Maltby for fire and that kind of stuff. So when they do bring those utilities from the existing school in, they won't have to go inside the school for security reasons and that kind of stuff. It'll be able to continue. But in saying all this and talking about our facilities, I do have some concerns in the fact that the way we are growing with Brighton schools and the amount of square footages that we are adding in Brighton area schools, in my opinion, things are starting to fall apart in Brighton area schools. And I think you can see a very classic example if you're at the football game on Friday. You could see our field is probably, 6 years old now. If you notice, the goalposts are all crooked. No one's bothered to fix the goalposts. You can see our track needs to be resurfaced. It probably should have been resurfaced 2 years ago, but it was never resurfaced. You can see that there's no lights on the flagpole. What happened to those lights? Gee, no one knows. The caulking around where the football field locker room is in the track, that's starting to deteriorate. Water's getting in there. How are we going to continue to maintain Brighton area schools and the amount of money we're dumping into these facilities and keep them for another 15, 20 years if this stuff falls apart in 5 years because there's not either enough personnel or the person isn't doing their job or something's happening that this stuff isn't being done. So why do we continue to dump money into these things if we can't keep up with the maintenance of them? And think about it. This is going to be a new 100,000 square foot facility. We just put in how many, 8 or 9 new ball fields, Hawkins, Spencer. Who's going to take care of this stuff? How many people do we have on staff to take care of it? What's going to happen? Have any of you guys seen a budget on maintenance or anything? I certainly haven't. I don't know if anyone else has. How much are we going to spend on maintenance? Do we even have enough people to maintain this stuff? These are all questions going through my head. I'm sitting here thinking about it. And again, the amount of money that we're spending, how's it going to happen? So with that, I think maybe if we're going to talk about a topic at one of these retreats, maybe this ought to be a topic that needs to be discussed. Because again, I can't see just dumping money into these facilities and them not being taken care of out of a proper maintenance budget that's we're supposed to have. So moving on, you guys see the girls cross country this weekend. They won gold. Invitational meet that they had. And the equestrian team took 3rd out of 18. You guys saw that, the Brighton equestrian team. So we're continuing to move ahead with that. That's all for me.
Anyone else? Scott?
Okay, last week I was over at Spencer working on STEAM program a little bit, and I got to experience these little rascals coming into school. Oh my goodness. It was like a great experience. I stood back and watched the teachers handling the students and the staff and the kids getting unloaded, and these kids were coming in. I mean, they were flowing out of the parking lot. Just amazing, the number of students. And what was great to see were the smiles, the excitement in school. It was really the second day of school when I was there because they had a day off due to electrical outage. So they were having to regroup for a day off. It was kind of interesting. So right at the get-go, they got a freebie. But back to that hard work in school. But the excitement for the students and the parents and staff was just made my heart feel good to be part, very small part of being able to support what they're doing. And I think that if we can, and the principal, oh my goodness, he's out in the parking lot directing traffic. I was afraid he's gonna get run over. Okay, he's doing rights and lefts and he's out and I'm like, ay, ay, ay. But he had to do it in order to get those kids unloaded safely. So he did it. And he got right out there, everybody wave and give them a little point and away they go. And they managed to get everybody unloaded safely. And I can just tell you it was great. So share that with the board. It's really good news. And then some of this COVID stuff. And I know there's things that we have to do. And we're talking about these quarantines. We're talking about testing. We talked about if they're vaccinated, which I hate putting any kind of pressure like that on somebody to think that they should do that so that they can go do their sport. But I can share with you the tests. As you guys know, I had to go through this awful thing of COVID. It was miserable. And so my wife and I were at the doctor's office together, side by side. She tested negative, I tested positive. She was sicker than anything. She actually tested negative the day before. I shouldn't say it was the same day, but we sat side by side the day I tested. And so we got to be careful putting too much faith in this test. She had gone to my sister-in-law's house the day after we think we got it. 10 people got sick from my wife who tested negative. And including grandchildren, nieces, my brother-in-law, everybody. Now, that's firsthand. Nobody got deathly ill. The children recovered quickly. My nieces took a little longer. They're in their 20s. The moms of the grandkids, their grandkids, not mine. And then, and my wife and I got hit hard with it. So, but they didn't. It was totally different for them. And so what is it with this virus? So back to this taking kids out of school and quarantining them for days on end and losing their schoolwork and getting behind, trying to do virtual. And we know that's not working for a lot of people. We have this, it's not a suggestion, I understand it's a health department requirement about this quarantine. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So as a board, we can't say we don't want the quarantine. We have no power to do so. Correct? At this time.
Correct. And that's based on the public health codes is the legal foundation of that.
Okay. So my position on this, and from what I understand, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong, we heard the number of positive cases from last year, give or take 300 cases. For a while, it was in that 150 range, hung in there, and then all of a sudden, we got a few more, right, towards the tail end. So out of the quarantines, there's no proof that anyone was quarantined, had got COVID from being exposed at school. Is that correct? There were some possibles. There were some possibles. These are thousands of quarantines from what this woman said. And I trust that it came at the thousands of days missed school when you add everybody together, and I'll just look at it that way. So if we're going to take this into serious consideration, that we have no proof that taking our children out of school, our kids that we're responsible for, and sending them home where maybe nobody's home. Maybe the parents have to work. Maybe there's only one parent and they have to work. We have no clue where we're sending them home to. it seems that we're sending them home to a much riskier situation than if, in fact, there was the quarantine room or something, and they were at school like a study hall. Just some idea other than leaving them at home so they can be engaged in their schoolwork, anything, so they can be involved and part of the school and not being sent down the road. And then if they've been exposed but they've been vaccinated, well, I've got firsthand information on that too. It's not working for all the kids to be vaccinated. It's not healthy for some of them. And who's going to decide who it's healthy for or who it's not healthy for? That's not our position either. It's the parents' decision what they do with those things. But firsthand, youth have been made sick from being vaccinated. But yet we don't have any kids that have been made sick from going home from a quarantine. Now, in that, no one here would hurt a child on purpose, period. They have differing views on how to get these kids through this. The absolute best situation right now as we go forward is we take the data we're learning, we go back to the health department, and we as a board, maybe all 5 districts in Livingston County go back to the health department, and then we push back on some of this stuff because we know it's not making an impact when it comes to the kids being sick or not, but it is making an impact on the education they're getting. And my dream sheet is those smiling kids, when I looked at them, I go, we have a big responsibility here. We have a huge responsibility to do our absolute best for these students. Students we'll never meet. They were wonderful. I'm telling you, these kids were free. They were free. They had smiles to earlobes, and they were laughing with their friends, and they're exactly what we want as adults to happen. And they were safe. There are people that aren't here tonight that would have said, don't have any school in a prior vote. Leave the kids at home. That proved to be entirely wrong. 100% wrong. Livingston County was spot on and united to get these kids into school. They're way safer there. So, not carrying this on any further, other than the point that we are adults overseeing these young people which have a great future in front of them. It's our job to give them the opportunity to continue to grow to the best of our ability. I truly believe this quarantine thing, this testing, if my wife and I were 50-50, one tested negative, one tested positive, that tells you firsthand it doesn't work. The test doesn't work. So it's an indication, but not the end all. Doesn't mean anything, really. Technically, if it's 50-50, what's 50-50? 50%'s an E in the school business. It's a failure. So that takes care of that. So I'd like to look into, on the superintendent side, we look into how the other schools are doing now, how our other schools in our district and all 5 schools. And I'd also then like to look outside, the ones that are requiring masking. I'd like to see how they're doing by percentage with a number of COVID cases that are reported in their school. And then I'd like to see if they're in the same boat we're in about this mandatory quarantine to see if it's done a thing. And if it hasn't done anything, we need to stop it as quick as possible. Not next year, not next semester, right now. Because if we can prove that this isn't doing anything and it's not helping the students, it's hurting them, we would up here at this board would never do anything to hurt students, period. So we can unite on that point that we wouldn't do anything to hurt students when we have a different point of how to protect them. But if we're hurting them, we better figure out how not to. All right, takes care of that. So we could work on that, get some details and some data, and maybe in this workshop. Okay, I'll be there. I'll come to the workshop because we can look at these things.
Hey, one exception.
Yes.
When you talked about the kids not being with one parent or 2 parents, if they filled that survey out like they were given, you would know how many parents they were with, right?
Well, it depends if you appreciate the survey or not.
Well, I don't.
We're going to get
So-
there in a second.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So quarantines out. Masked or unmasked, masks are out. Kids sent home, unsafe potential environments, we're ordering that. Not necessarily this board, but we're following directions that order it. So then we need to go back and fight back as a board and say, this is not what we want our kids to have. We talked about the 50-50 results. We talked about people getting sick, how awful this thing is, right? We've talked about that before. We talked about, today, did you guys see that storm come in? The entire sky got black. You catch that in the afternoon today? We had to batten down the hatches at our facility. I asked my wife to go back to the area that was safer, where I wasn't around all the windows. Had no idea what was coming, did we? Could have been anything today. That's exactly what this life is that we live in. We don't know. We could have got knocked off the planet right there on the spot. Okay, that's how life is. We can't control those things. Just like you're not going to control this virus, do you think you're going to get your arms around that and stop it? Okay, there's a certain process that's going to take. We're going to get through it, and people can do what they feel is right. It's a free country, and the United States is free to do that. So please do that, but don't put your wishes on others. It's not our right. And the other thing is, and I'm still going to go back to this, on that mailer that went out, we recommended vaccination. I never recommended it. I'd like to have that in this workshop for discussion about how, as a school district and as the board, how we stand on that as far as if we want to modify that. I understand the reasons behind it, but I didn't recommend it, and I won't recommend it because it's not my position or anybody in here, in my opinion, position to recommend it for any family. It's their decision, not ours. Bill made a mention, so I guess, so we didn't forget it in a way. We're talking about the surveys that they're asking our kids to fill out in school. And I personally filled it out. And I was going to submit it, and I almost did. And my wife says, "You sure you want to submit that? You know, how do you want to be considered? Other." That's the box I checked, and I put down male. That's what I am. And I'm not ashamed of that. I'm happy. But I'm not a combination of these other things, the questions they were asking. Any combination thereof. And unconditionally, we should never ask that question. It's nobody else's business. It's not ours. It's a person, it's the individual. If you're protecting the individual, what right do you have to have that data? And then if you have the data, what do you do with it? Where does the data go? Oh, it's in Google. Oh, really? And that's safe. Okay, Google's not safe for anything. Google is transparent or wide open. So we need, and the gentleman spoke tonight on what they were looking at. It's a way that things change without people knowing about it. People make changes to an excellent curriculum that was the best in the world for 10 years, and all of a sudden things start to change. Now, some people would support that. They would. They think that that's a good thing. Others may not support it. I can share with you in Livingston County, it has a very conservative value system. A lot of people live here because of that value system. And the people I've talked to over the years, no one's asked me in one time, has anybody called me and asked me to do anything different in 3 elected terms on this school board? Not one time. Even when stuff was in the paper and it's going wild, they said, just keep moving forward. And I said, you know, it didn't go the way I planned. They said, keep working on it. So we are. And this board is a great board. So I think everything we wanted to do for the kids to do better, we have. This online survey stuff, this potential curriculum change that may have been the most wonderful curriculum there was, all of these things should be reviewed as they come or beforehand. But sometimes you may have a teacher that may have just graduated from college that didn't even know what the other curriculum even was. And maybe because it was rated the highest, they just took it on and said, this is the greatest. And I trust that because I think we have a lot of great teachers. And I don't think they're doing anything bad. I think there's sometimes there's a slip here and there, but in a big sense, I don't believe it. I think that they look out for these kids. Like I said, I watched it at Spencer Elementary, and I saw the carrying, and the teachers grab hold of the student's hand and walk the students into class. They are not afraid of these kids. They're taking care of these kids. And you could see it, and you can just tell, and the kids know it. They can tell the difference. So that's our job from the board. They'll never meet us like they do our staff. So if we have to check program by program and open the textbook by textbook, then that's our job as a board, because guess who adopted the curriculum and who's responsible for it? We are. Under state, look at what it says about curriculum and curriculum adoption and all these things. We hire everybody here to do it, but we're the elected officials of the community that represent each one of these different groups of parents who all have different ideas, and we're elected by them to look after all of them. Oh, no, that's not a responsibility. I think you need to look it up because it is. And And we can do it. We're all capable, and we're all have our different gifts. Everybody has different gifts, and so do our students, and we have to protect them. So as we move forward, everybody that takes a board position here, I've seen a lot of them in action and doing work. We don't get paid for it. Sometimes it doesn't. The only payday is watching the kids get off the bus or seeing them have a successful program and the parents happy that we're involved in what they're doing. We all have a debt to do. We took this job, and that's our job to do it. It's not easy. And this thing with the COVID, oh my goodness. So, but we will prevail, and we are prevailing. I'll show you that right now. I can tell when the team's winning, the team's winning. We are winning. The kids are winning. I was at the football game Friday. I was just so happy for the kids. So we continue on this momentum. And if something comes up that changes it and changes what we believe needs to be done, and there's a safer route that's proven, it's going to be a better way to do something, I believe we have to do that too if something should change in what's happening. But right now, what's happening is the gift of education is prevailing. The students are happy. I can see it in them. And I believe everybody here, if they're going into schools all around the kids, are seeing the same thing. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. Any further board reports or board bulletins? Okay. That concludes everything that we have on the agenda this evening. Our next regular board meeting is Monday, September 27 at 7 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.